All right, looks like we're started.
All right, sounds good. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to February's Lunch and Learn. My name is Joey Mayberger. I'm the AmeriCorps Vista member representing the Nevada Pathways Project through Nevada Volunteers. I'm joined by Ty McCoy. He is the External Engagement Officer at Nevada Volunteers, and he will be assisting and answering any questions that you might have. So with that, I'll provide a brief overview of what we'll be talking about today. Um, so I'll start by providing a brief introduction to the Nevada Pathways Project and provide some background to our points of emphasis for the project. I will then discuss AmeriCorps' streams of service and provide a few examples of current service project listings. I will then discuss a few of the technical assistant measures that Nevada Volunteers offers through this project. And then I'll then discuss the perks of serving with AmeriCorps from the individual member's perspective. And before we conclude, I'll provide a little bit of my personal experience serving with AmeriCorps through Walker Basin Conservancy and use them as an example to show how an AmeriCorps program can transform an organization. So start the Nevada Pathways Project essentially aims to break the cycle of poverty felt throughout the state. Our emphasis is on rural and isolated communities, Native American communities, and nonprofit organizations and under-resourced communities. What we're looking to do is create partnerships with nonprofit and community organizations, and we're looking to help them by introducing AmeriCorps funding, helping them navigate grant portals, and connecting community partners to resources. In short, we aim to provide sustainable solutions to the economic disparity faced in these areas. So I made this table with census information reported on censusreporter.org to help visualize Nevada's demographic information at a quick glance. It's not a perfect representation, obviously, but I do think it highlights some of the discrepancies between the state's rural and urban counties. If you can see, per capita income and median household income are consistently well below the state average. And obviously, to clarify, the what's considered the urban counties are Clark, Washoe, and Carson City. So a few specifics, we see Pershing and Mineral County hovering around $26,000 compared to the state average of $38,000. As well as poverty rate and child poverty rates are at times well below the state average. We again see Mineral County at about 18%, with Eureka County also being near this figure compared to the state average of 12.5%. It is important to recognize the lower cost of living, especially when looking at per capita income discrepancies. However, these figures do help highlight some of the areas with the most need. And one of the most surprising figures is the mean commute time actually being pretty consistently higher in rural counties. And this transitions us well to discussing why rural areas of the state are a major emphasis of this project. So approximately 87% of the state is defined as rural, which entails a sparsely populated region of considerable distance from urban centers. Nevada's geography provides further barriers for the rural population. A difficult mountainous terrain, extreme arid conditions, and the state's large size create logistical challenges for the state's rural population. Often, to receive medical services and address critical needs, residents must drive multiple hours to one of the larger cities. A lack of alternate transportation methods leaves this almost impossible without a personal vehicle. A limited population and resource base creates a lack of available services to residents. Rural economies are largely based around agriculture and mining, which leaves residents susceptible to government regulations and environmental changes. Often a rural economy is left devastated by the closure of a mine. Further, health hazards exist due to these mining operations, with water pollution and other contaminants presenting health hazards to residents. Agriculture in the dry state in the U.S. presents other challenges. Often water rights are over-allocated to support this sector, which has led to environmental issues in these areas. Nonprofit organizations can provide a solution to these service gaps. However, many are faced with similar funding issues and limited resources, both financially and workforce related. AmeriCorps Streams of Services can help address this by providing grant funding and introducing non-locals to the area to provide a workforce. Further, it can help increase trust in federal assistance. From my experience serving with AmeriCorps in rural Nevada, there's a largely felt skepticism of the federal government. And I would say this is relatively warranted due to the lack of resource allocations to these areas and a greater sense of independent living. But a presence in these areas, especially when providing direct services to residents, can enhance their reception to accepting external assistance. So as it also mentioned, providing Native American communities assistance is another major emphasis for this project. It is important to recognize the ongoing colonialism that continues to support systems of oppression that sought to exterminate indigenous people and culture from our country. Today, these systems largely come in the forms of barriers to access of quality healthcare, reliable internet access, and challenging federal grant requirements that continue to facilitate a cycle of poverty. Further, many reservations are located in extremely isolated parts of the state, which leads to all the same challenges I discussed previously to be barriers for those living on reservations. I would like to highlight an article I read on highcountynews.org that discusses the difficulties faced by two Paiute elders, Dennis and Betty Smart, as they navigate a challenging healthcare system in their community. They relay the struggles of living on a small, remote McDermott Paiute and Shoshone reservation, which is located just north of Winnemucca, right on the Oregon border. The population of McDermott Reservation is only 254 people, with a per capita income of just under $15,000, and about half of residents live below the poverty rate. Dennis suffered a heart attack, and it required two ambulances, a helicopter to transport him to Reno for emergency medical services. His pacemaker requires an hour drive to Winnemucca to get batteries changed. No pharmacy is present in the town, which leads to him and 90% of the other residents having to receive medication through the mail. Due to difficulties receiving local care, he relays that it's often faster to drive to Elko or Fallon to receive medical care. Due to his condition, Dennis must rely on Social Security services and has bills he can't pay off because his Medicare Part B plan or premium was raised. The tribe manages its own health clinic, but it is in desperate need of more funding, and they struggle to find a physician who's willing to live there. He relays a common fear for older residents that they may have to leave the place that they've called home their whole life due to a lack of available healthcare and economic opportunity. So obviously there's a lot to unpack in this account, and it's a very complex issue without a clear-cut solution. It prevents the unfortunate reality that many Indigenous people face throughout the country. And the purpose of this project is to hopefully provide a spark for a sustainable solution that will ideally generate through the willpower of those living in these situations. So one of these sparks we believe to be volunteerism and community service. The following figures are reported directly from AmeriCorps. So last year, more than 1,700 Americans of all ages and backgrounds united to meet local needs, strengthen communities, and expand opportunity through national service in Nevada. AmeriCorps invested more than $7.5 million in federal funding to support cost-effective community solutions, working hand-in-hand with local partners to empower individuals to help their communities tackle their toughest challenges. Through a unique public-private partnership, AmeriCorps and its partners generated more than $2.4 million in outside resources from businesses, foundations, public agencies, and other sources. Almost 480,000 formal volunteers contributed over 36 million hours of service through organizations, which is worth an estimated $1.1 billion. So these figures help provide tangible value to the very important work that often goes unnoticed throughout the state. Many Nevadans work hard to improve their local communities, and the selfless work is imperative to creating a stronger, more equitable society. The purpose of the Pathways Project is to encourage and empower this service work. And one of the major ways we can do this is by offering assistance through AmeriCorps Streams of Service. So the first stream of service I will discuss is AmeriCorps Vista, or Volunteers in Service to America. At its core, Vista is a federal anti-poverty initiative that provides resources to public, private, or faith-based nonprofit organizations and local or state agencies in order to address poverty and poverty-related issues throughout the country. Vista members serve full-time for 1 year in a capacity-building manner for their host organization. They support programs that improve academic performance, expand job opportunities, develop financial assets, alleviate hunger, reduce homelessness, and improve health services. As mentioned, these roles are in support of organizational capacity and do not provide direct service work. So this entails services such as grant writing, building new partnerships, developing marketing strategies, creating community outreach strategies, and recruiting volunteers, as opposed to doing a direct service, which should be something like building a homeless shelter. The goal of the VISTA project is to create the capacity for poverty solutions that will outlive their service term. And there are 3 types of VISTA positions. The most common is just the general VISTA member. So they serve the full 1-year term in the capacity building manner that I just discussed. VISTA leaders similarly serve the full 1-year term, but have the added responsibilities of acting in a leadership role to the other VISTA members serving on the same project. In order to be a VISTA leader, the individual must have served a prior term with AmeriCorps and have shown leadership capabilities. Summer associates serve in a bridge term during the summer months to provide assistance to a current project. Most commonly, it's used and it's an option for current students to do national service and gain valuable experience during their summer break. And I would especially like to highlight the VISTA intermediary service through the Nevada Pathways Project. Essentially, we're offering a partnership with our project where Nevada volunteers will manage the grant application and management to establish a VISTA project at an eligible organization. Simply put, Nevada Volunteers handles the background paperwork for the organization, and they will get their own VISTA member to work on their service project. So with that, I will provide a few examples of VISTA projects, current VISTA project listings, with the first being Love Your Block VISTA project. So this project highlights the volunteer recruitment and management capabilities of a service project. The Love Your Block service project or program invites residents to apply for assistance for neighborhood improvement projects. The VISTA member assists this by developing and implementing strategies to recruit volunteers for this project. And these activities include collaborating with city officials, community leaders, and other organizations to identify volunteer needs and opportunities. They also organize volunteer training sessions to ensure that volunteers are equipped with necessary skills to contribute to the project. They establish systems for volunteer management to track engagement hours and impact achieved. And they act as the primary point of contact for volunteers. So essentially, this VISTA project, the VISTA member provides capacity to build a strong volunteer base for the Love Your Block project. The next example is the Environmental Grants Coordinator VISTA, serving through the Truckee Meadows Parks Foundation. This VISTA project is a great example of how a member can assist an organization financially. The project description entails the member supporting a sustainable fundraising plan, specifically for the Healthy Parks, Healthy People program. The individual serving will look to expand current fundraising measures and look to implement new ones. The Healthy Parks, Healthy People program has an anti-poverty element due to the project being aimed at underserved and low-income community members. The program aims to alleviate poverty by offering free, easily accessible health and education-based opportunities to low-income community members that may not have otherwise had these opportunities. The next VISTA project is the Immigration Marketing and Outreach Coordinator serving through Catholic Charities of Northern Nevada. This is an example of a religious affiliated program conducting an AmeriCorps program. So despite VISTA members and AmeriCorps members in general being obligated to act in a secular, nonpartisan manner, organizations with a religious affiliation can indeed have an AmeriCorps program. What you'll notice is that this project does not represent Catholicism. Instead, it has a community benefit and an anti-poverty aspect. The VISTA member will conduct marketing and outreach of Catholic Charities of Northern Nevada's Immigration Legal Services. The VISTA member will work alongside the Immigration Legal Services team, or the ILS team, to develop marketing materials to be distributed to stakeholders, engage and inform community members with up-to-date immigration policies, develop interactive trainings for volunteers, attend stakeholder meetings, and learn about case management with the ILS team to streamline internal case processes. The ILS team provides a direct service of representing individuals seeking legal status and work authorization, while the member provides the capacity building for this direct service. The project's anti-poverty initiative is through this work authorization status. Many law-abiding immigrants who are entitled to legal status do not pursue documentation because they're afraid of exploitation. By providing the capacity for clients to achieve naturalized citizenship, they are creating further job opportunities and providing the opportunity for numerous individuals to be lifted out of poverty. And the last VISTA example I have highlights how tribal organizations can utilize a VISTA member. This VISTA project is from the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. So currently there are only about 8 listings that I could find of any tribal VISTA program throughout the country, which highlights the underutilization of these resources currently. There's also not much I could find on this listing, but it appears a member will provide general resource development and capacity building targeted at improving health and wellness of those living on the Pine Ridge Reservation. And as I mentioned, establishing tribal VISTA intermediaries in Nevada is one of the major long-term goals of this project. So now I'll discuss the next stream of service, which is AmeriCorps State and National. This is the form of service that you'd probably most likely think when you think of AmeriCorps. It's the hands-on direct service projects that are designed to meet a critical community need. The host organization identifies their community need and then implements their AmeriCorps program that will leverage people power as a solution. There are a broad range of state and national programs, with the main categories from AmeriCorps being to inspire learning, which would include developing an after-school program, improving reading skills for primary school students, supporting high school students through college access programs, or by using coding skills to build interactive museum exhibits. Protecting the environment. This would include joining Conservation Corps and building hiking trails, maintaining public parks, or protecting wildlife. Next is creating economic opportunity. This would include serving as a resource coordinator, connecting individuals to affordable housing, or conducting outreach for workforce development training. Next would be responding to disaster. This would include assisting survivors and recruiting volunteers to help restore communities affected by natural disasters. Improving well-being. This would include advancing more equitable health outcomes for underserved communities, and honoring veterans, which would include connecting them and military families to healthcare and other services, or supporting their transition back to civilian life. Member service terms are also more flexible. Positions can be full or part-time, and the length of service is not required to be a year long. So a few examples of current state and national programs I've found is first, the Reno Food Systems AmeriCorps crew member. This is a part-time farmhand position that will assist the Reno Food System staff with general maintenance, planting, produce packing, and animal care. The member will also provide engagement with community members, visitors, and youth groups. The member will be provided training under the farm manager and staff on proper farm machinery and farmhand techniques. And this is a pretty unique position that demonstrates a rather broad range of services AmeriCorps can provide that could especially be applicable to our rural communities. Importantly, Reno Food Systems is a nonprofit organization with a community focus. They're guided by many motivating factors, including environmental stewardship, regenerative agriculture, community engagement, advocacy for food and equity, regional economic growth, and community health and wellness. These principles are obviously in line with AmeriCorps values, which leads to their ability to host an AmeriCorps project in a field that you wouldn't typically think of a service project, which is agriculture. Next, I have the elementary school mentor serving with United Ways of Northern Nevada. Education is a very common focus of AmeriCorps State and national programs, and this is definitely an example of one. Members perform direct service for the United Readers program by leading students in accordance with the provided curriculum. The members will support early childhood education by providing guidance and assessments for children in the program. The member will create a safe space for children to achieve their academic goals, and in doing so, the member will provide direct enhancement to the community. Conservation and restoration programs are another very common form of state and national service. This next position of wetland restoration technician serving with Truckee Meadows Parks Foundation is an example of direct environmental service. The service project is the restoration of a decommissioned golf course back to a native wetland. The member will provide service by removing invasive plants and revegetating the land with native plant species. AmeriCorps restoration projects such as this truly show the impact of AmeriCorps. These projects are pivotal for protecting the fragile ecosystems and largely go overlooked without a dedicated group of individuals and external funding sources. And the final listing I will discuss is the Program and Outreach Coordinator for the Audubon Bird Conservancy in Las Vegas. This position is an example of how a state and national AmeriCorps position can act in both a capacity building and direct service manner. So kind of like a bridge between a VISTA and a state and national member. As an outreach coordinator, the service member will create and adapt Red Rock Audubon's content into a format that can be distributed to the public to enhance the visibility of their message. The member will also act in a direct service manner by conducting education events targeted towards the youth and their families. So like I said, this project is similar to a VISTA project in the capacity building aspect, but also shows the versatility of a state and national program to be able to act in that direct service with the education aspect of it. So the final AmeriCorps service program is the National Civilian Community Corps, or NCCC. This is the most direct form of service of the three. So teams of 8 to 12 young adults will work on a service project for 3 to 13 weeks. These projects include improving community infrastructure, energy and environmental conservation, urban and rural development, and disaster relief. Like I said, these are very direct service projects. So an example would be if a town wanted to build a new community center, they can enlist an NCCC project to assist this. Disaster relief is a very common form of NCCC project. Think of like hurricane or natural disaster relief. Wildfire mitigation and relief is another very common form of NCCC service. Also unique to NCCC is members must be 18 to 26 years old, and housing, cooking facilities, and showers must be provided by the host organization. So I'll move on to some of the technical assistance Nevada Volunteers provides. Through AmeriCorps, we offer the Volunteer Generation Fund, which I have been told that everyone here is already a part of. So I won't need to discuss this too much, but essentially it's funding and resources distributed to support an organization's ability to recruit and retain volunteers in order to address critical community needs. It provides investments in volunteer management practices, including volunteer recognition programs, expanding recruitment efforts, expanding or creating web-based volunteer platforms, and providing supplies, trainings, and orientations for volunteer programs. The goal of VGF is to create stronger and more fulfilled community volunteer forces. And some of the other technical assistances that Nevada Volunteers provides, especially through our Pathways project, is federal grant trainings, access to certified public accountants, financial trainings, volunteer management assistance and trainings, AmeriCorps trainings, compliance trainings, and external grant assistance. So technical assistance is a pretty broad term and will kind of depend on an organization's unique needs. But like I said, we have third-party grant assistance, and one that I'd like to highlight that we've looked into is the Walmart Spark Goods local grant. These grants range from $250 to $5,000, with funds being allocated towards projects for community improvement. The implying organization must be a 501c3 nonprofit, a recognized government entity, which must be requesting funds exclusively for public purposes, a private or public nonprofit school, or a faith-based organization with proposed projects that benefit the community at large. So pretty broad kind of stuff you can use with this grant. So the next available grant submission and review window begins on March 1st and will continue through July 15th. So I'll now shift back to AmeriCorps to discuss the benefits for the individuals who choose to serve with AmeriCorps. This information could be an effective recruiting tool if your organization has or establishes an AmeriCorps program. So the main perk of serving with AmeriCorps is the education award received upon completing a service term. This is dependent on the length of service, with a full-time, full-year member receiving an award of $7,400. This money can be used for pursuing higher education from a university, but it can also be used for a broad range of technical certifications. It can also be used to pay off current student loans that you already have going into it. And I would say it adds the most financial value for an individual serving with AmeriCorps. I'll be personally using my education award to help pay for physical therapy school this upcoming fall. The next perk that I would also consider the most valuable is the professional development opportunities. AmeriCorps is not only a service opportunity, but a learning opportunity. Professional development is written into all AmeriCorps positions, and this can typically look like shadowing or learning from a full-time staff member in your respective service project, or by completing certifications during your service term. During my prior AmeriCorps term, I was able to spend a day with our funding chairperson, shadowing her and receiving career advice. I learned a lot from her, and it was a very impactful moment in my service term. I would also equate serving with AmeriCorps to be kind of like an internship of sort. I've met some individuals who are serving before applying to law school, and they did a service term related to their desired field of law. I decided to serve because I desire to work in the field of environmental sustainability and conservation. When I graduated college with a degree in finance, I found it very difficult to get any job prospects in this field and thought of my AmeriCorps term as my entry into this field. Despite putting this desire on hold for the time being, spending a year working in a field that I care deeply about was an extremely rewarding experience and something I'm very glad I did. Individuals also receive a living stipend when serving with AmeriCorps. It's like a paycheck, but you can't call it that. If you look at the lens from a traditional job, you might not call it a benefit because it is a very modest amount. But looking at it from a perspective of payment for volunteer or service work, I think it is well worth it. And which leads me to my last point. of the power of service work. It kind of gets thrown around a lot in this field and while serving with AmeriCorps, but it is the reality. The best way I could describe it is a unique grounding experience that many would never experience otherwise. Most of my peers in college went straight into their respective careers, which might be the financially smart thing to do, but I found national service to be personally a very rewarding thing to do. It's making a commitment greater than yourself and making personal sacrifices for the betterment of your community and society as a whole. The values I've learned through service, I will take with me my whole life. So speaking of which, as I mentioned, I previously served with Walker Basin Conservancy, and WBC is an excellent example of how hosting an AmeriCorps project creates meaningful impact for a community while also adding economic value to a host organization. So a little background on Walker Basin Conservancy. It was founded as an organization to provide direct service to Walker Lake and the surrounding watershed. If you're unfamiliar with Walker Lake, it's located on Highway 95 near Hawthorne. And over the last century, over-allocation of water rights to support the local agriculture economy left Walker Lake in a state of ecological collapse. Primarily from communities located upstream in Smith and Mason valleys, water from the Walker River was fully diverted for irrigation, leaving the river completely dry by the time it should have reached Walker Lake. Decades of insufficient flow to the terminal lake led to receding water levels due to evaporation and ground sequestration, and the lake had dropped 150 feet, lost half of its surface area, and saw a 90% volume decrease. Further, the reduction of water in the lake led to salinity levels drastically increasing due to the lack of water to dilute the remaining sediments. Native fish can no longer be supported in the lake due to these high salinity levels, and as it stands, there are no fish in the lake today. Loons were previously commonly found around the lake, with a local loon festival in Hawthorne occurring yearly until 2009. The festival and the cutthroat trout fishing supported a tourism economy for the lake and surrounding communities, and unfortunately, this also collapsed with the lake. So Walker Basin Conservancy established itself as the first organization to provide direct service to the area. They buy water rights to be allocated to reach Walker Lake. Further, they buy former farm and ranch land to be restored with native Great Basin plants. This restoration project is one of the projects they utilized AmeriCorps program for. AmeriCorps members provided direct service labor and revegetation projects in the former agriculture fields and heavy use areas along the river corridor. Not only did this reduce riverbank erosion and support the local ecosystem, but also led to beneficial partnerships with Nevada State Parks and the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. Just this past year, WBC ended their partnership with AmeriCorps, and this was largely due to many of the restoration projects seeing completion, with much of this restored land being donated to Nevada State Parks for public use. WBC is a great example of how an AmeriCorps program can grow an organization, though. I spoke with many people before who worked there before they established their AmeriCorps program, and they would talk about how much the organization grew through it. At any given point throughout the program, AmeriCorps staff usually far outweighed full-time staff and accounted for much of the direct labor efforts. These projects contributed to further donor support and grant allocation due to the continued success of these projects and tangible results to show for it. Further, many of the full-time staff started as AmeriCorps members. So having an increased talent pool within the organization led to the retention of many skilled and knowledgeable staff who had already had months of experience with Walker Basin. This growth, aided by the AmeriCorps program, has led to the organization to be able to pivot towards a future of self-sufficiency as they shift towards native plant distribution for profit, or for their funding, and away from federal funding. This will allow them to be a more autonomous organization and lead to less constraints from grant guidelines. And while AmeriCorps assistance isn't the only contributing factor, it is hard to overlook the effect it had on Walker Basin Conservancy. So To conclude, I would like to provide a little bit of transparency on our motives for this project. Essentially, the goal of our project is to provide help in any way we can. The Pathways project itself is a grant-funded project, meaning we are trying to hit our parameters of organizations conducted outreach for and impacted by our outreach and assistance. Helping your organization or any other helps us reach our project goals. And importantly, we do not profit off this exchange or receive commission in any way. The goal of being transparent is to establish trust and make our motives apparent. So with that, we'd like to extend an invitation for collaboration. If your organization or any that you know of is in need of assistance and what we've discussed seems like a valuable opportunity, I have my email and Ty's email listed. I'd again like to highlight the Vista Intermediary Program that is unique to this project. If you think your organization could benefit from establishing a Vista program, you can apply right through us, and we handle most of the logistical side of doing it. We would love to hear from you guys, and if you have any interest, please reach out. And with that, we will now open for any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joey. That was really insightful. I learned some stuff there, so I really thank you for coming on and talking about all the ways that AmeriCorps Vistas and state nationals can be useful, but also about the Pathways Project.
Yeah, of course.
So I don't think there's going to be any questions, but if anyone has any questions, feel free to email Joey and Ty. But otherwise, I think we are good.